type of animation that we've spoken about so far has been keyframe animation. And what we're going to talk about now is path animation. Path animation is, in some ways and many ways, a lot more useful than keyframe animation because it allows you to easily and quickly change the path that you're going to be working with and sort of move it around a bit. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start off by creating a helix. So I've got this shape here. This is the outside of my wacky new hotel. And I just want to do sort of a fly around it. But I want to do something that looks a little bit more interesting. So I'll use the helix as my initial path. And I'll left click out and I'll make my base path. And I'll give it a height. And then a second part of the spiral. So there you go. You can see that's the path that I want my camera to follow. I want my object to follow that. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a camera. It's going to be a target camera. And I'm going to get that target. I'm going to move it about halfway up the object. So if I can find the target there. There we go. Move it halfway up my building. And then here comes the nifty part. This is the bit that we really need to sort of pay attention to. Select your camera. Go to Motion. Open up Assign Controller. And click on the Position Controller, which is currently set as being an XYZ position controller. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this button here, which is Assign Controller. And I'm going to assign a path constraint onto that. So then I'll click OK, and you'll see we've got some options down here on the right hand side in my command panel. And the one that I'm looking for is the one that's going to allow me to add a path. So I'll click on Add Path, and then I'll click on my helix. Now instantly you can see that the camera snaps to the beginning of that path. Okay? And if I right click this and do it, you see the camera now actually follows the path. It's all well and good, but there's maybe one or two extra things that we want to change. First one would be, let's make sure our time configuration is correct. So it's not, so I'll change that to PAL. And I'm going to make this 125 frames. Click OK. Which now means that my keyframe here needs to be selected and dragged over to 125. There we go. So 125 times 25 or divided by 25 is 5, so that's 5 seconds. And the other thing that I want to do here is I want the animation to start from the top of the path, not the bottom of the helix. So I want to check first of all my animation and make sure it's all okay. So I'll make this my camera view. We'll go from the bottom here. Let's see if we go from the back. Oh, that could work. I think maybe I will have it go from the bottom, but the one thing I want to do is rotate this helix so that the animation starts from the front of the building. There we go. And now as I scrub my time slider along, there you go, you see it all works perfectly. Because this is still a parametric object, if I twist this and make it more than one turn, you'll see we'll get now more than one turn going around it. So that's a bit corkscrewish. I'll make that 1. Maybe I'll make it a counterclockwise as opposed to a clockwise. So now it goes off this way round rather than the other. There we go. And I can even make my radius 2 a lot smaller. I'd also have to make the height a lot bigger. So we get a much more interesting, now that is interesting, isn't it? That means I'll have to make my radius 2 a lot bigger as well. And you see here now what we're getting is we're closing in, and we're spiraling up until we're pretty much right on top. Now maybe if I put more turns in like that, see that then gives me an opportunity to really sort of throw my camera back into the object. And I think as well, you can see here, the camera isn't quite lined up with the middle of the object. So what I might do is actually, rather than move the camera and the shape, I'm going to move the object slightly. There you go. So now what we've got is 5 seconds of really great animation. And I'm going to make this a little bit higher again, put a little bit further away. Simply because the top of this this hotel was actually outside of the area I wanted to have as my action safe. There we go. Brilliant. So that, in a nutshell, is path animation.